Greetings, beloved matrics. We are going to have a look at a discussion on the new tribe by Buchi Imacheta. So let's see how far we can get today. So I hope you have your pen ready. Let's go. Background of the author. Buchi Imacheta was born in 1944 in Lagos, Nigeria. She moved to London where she has lived ever since. She has published a number of novels and explores the themes of child slavery, womanhood, and female independence, as well as being an African in Britain. This story was extracted from her novel, The New Tribe, and published as a short story. It deals with the trials of cross-cultural contact, with adoption, and with the identity issues faced by Africans living amongst other cultural groups in the diaspora. Thus, this story can be said to have two major themes: the issue of adoption and the issue of mixed-race families. Although when we do have a look at themes, you will see that there can be many more. Vocabulary. On page 166, frantic means distraught with fear or anxiety. Tesco is the name of a chain of supermarkets, almost like Woolworths or Checkers or ShopRite or Spar or whatever. A vicar is the title of a member of the clergy. It's like a minister of religion, or it could be a priest, or it could be a pastor or a reverend. Stupefaction, made to be unable to think or feel properly. Bemusedly, looking on in puzzlement, confusion, bewilderment. On page 167, ventured, a risky or daring journey or course of action. Succession, one thing following the one after the other. So it's one after the other after the other. Probing, inquiring closely into something. Passively, in an accepting manner without active response or resistance. Christened, baptism. Parishioners, members of a church congregation. On page 168, traumatized means disturbed, shocked, distressed. Bureaucratic, official, administrative, governmental. Scrutiny, inspection, examination, inquiry. On page 169, inseparable means unable to be separated. Compound is a cluster of buildings. Cardigan, a knitted jersey with buttons. On page 170, flourished, thrived or prospered. Instinctively, automatically, intuitively. Broaching, introducing or raising. Come to light means to make clear, put out in the open for everyone to see. Vent is to release a strong emotion. Wail, a prolonged high-pitched cry of pain, grief, or anger. Page 171. Consoled means comforted. Ingenuity, being clever, original, and inventive. Whimpering, whining, or crying. Comrades in arms, very close friends. Page 172. The Christmas Nativity Play. This is a concert depicting the birth of Christ, with the wise men and the shepherds and the angels, Mary and Joseph in the stall, all the animals around the crib. So the whole story depicting the birth of Christ. The Orient is the East. A crook is the hooked staff of a shepherd. Jovially, cheerful and friendly. On page 173, Remembrance Day. This is a day where people remember and honor the dead of the First World War and then later conflicts as well. It is held on the 11th of November. The poppy flower is used to symbolize the day. Fidgeted, make small movements, especially of the hands and feet, through nervousness or because you might be impatient. Gravity, importance, seriousness, significance. On page 174, brutal means savagely violent. Capitulated, gave in or surrendered. On page 175, we find the word microcosm, which is a miniature copy. And page 176, amiability means friendliness, pleasant manner. Introverted is withdrawn. Perplexing is confusing, puzzling. Serenity, calmness, peacefulness. On page 177, spontaneous means natural, unplanned, impulsive. Grudgingly is reluctantly, unwillingly, resentfully. On page 178, belligerently means aggressively, argumentatively, in a hostile way. Despondent means when you are in low spirits from the loss of hope or courage. On page 180, engrossed, absorbed, occupied, and then the Rock of Gibraltar, a high cliff in southern Spain overlooking the sea. The characters. Ginny Arlington. She is unable to have children of her own. She is patient, devoted, orderly. She has a fear that Chester's biological mother will come and claim him back. She has to accept children are becoming more independent and asserting their own identities. The Reverend Arthur Arlington. He's a minister in the Anglican Church. Also, he's called the Vicar. Julia and Chester's adoptive father. He's orderly. He finds the adoptive procedure difficult and intrusive. He is observant, dependable, supportive. He just once loses his temper at breakfast. And at the end we see that Chester says he is the Rock of Gibraltar. Julia. She was abandoned at birth, found by Julian the newspaper boy at the phone booths in town. She was in a Tesco shopping bag. Julian brought Julia to the Arlingtons, and that is where Julia's name originated from. She is caring and protective of Chester. She becomes introverted after finding out she was adopted, but she can take charge when it's necessary. Chester. His birth mother asked that the Arlington family adopt him. He loves his sister Julia very much, but feels that he does not fit in. He experiences an identity crisis as he is the only Nigerian boy in a small white community. He feels responsible for ruining other people's joy and therefore tries to not cause trouble. He has a recurring dream about a village that he belongs in, but his dream originates from a story his mother wrote to him as a child to try and connect him to his roots. At the end of the story, Chester begins to assert his independence by not playing the king in the nativity play. Catherine Mba. She is Chester's biological mother, a Nigerian woman who lives in England. She is pregnant with twins from another man, not Chester's biological father. The boyfriend does not want Chester as he does not want to raise another man's child. Catherine followed the way the Arlington family adopted Julia and wanted her son to be raised by a good family. We find Victoria and Robert. These are friends of Ginny. She corresponds with them and they live in Australia. Ray Miller is Chester's best friend. His mother is the dinner lady at school. He struggled to fit in, but Chester helped him. Miss Slattery is Chester's first grade teacher. She's clever and insightful and sympathetic. And then we find Pamela, Julia's best friend. The setting. A small rural village in Britain called St. Simon in the modern time. The writer focuses on the problems facing adopted children and their parents in a mixed-race family in Britain. The title. It refers to people who originally came from Africa but are now living in Britain. The old tribal system is changing as there are now mixed-race families with adoptions taking place. From the old system, things are shifting to a more global community. Here, Chester is part of a new tribe. Themes. Mixed-race families. The Arlingtons have to be cautious and sensitive in the way they integrate Chester in a white community, while Chester has to accept that he is from a different racial background to allow himself to fit in well. We also find adoption. Some challenges that adoptive and prospective adoptive parents face are shown. The process that is followed, as well as the problem of having to tell the children that they're actually adopted, is shown. Identity. Chester has to come to the conclusion of who he is and where he fits in, a very hard task for the only Nigerian male in a small rural community where some children are mean and call him King of the Devils. Insecurity, change and acceptance. Chester realizes he's different and adopted, the only black boy in an English rural village. He feels insecure and a sense of unbelonging, but goes through changes and accepts that he has a new family, the Arlingtons. He realizes that he now has a new tribe, not a Nigerian dream that he clings to anymore, but his adopted family who loves him very much. Themes may also include love, womanhood, being an African in Britain. Figures of speech. On page 166, a frantic ring at the door pierced the quiet house. Personification. It shows how insistent the ringing of the doorbell was. Julian mounted his bike and cycled off as if he had just delivered the morning paper. Simile. Shows how casually he left the little baby at the Arlingtons, as if it's an everyday occurrence like delivering newspapers. On page 168, the room was frozen into silence. Personification. Emphasizes the shock. Page 170. It began as a glimmer and gradually became a solid awareness, established but somehow imprisoned inside him. Metaphor. The feeling of unbelonging is compared to something he can see and something that can be placed in a jail. Page 171, You Little Devil, is a metaphor. It was meant as a joke by the headmaster, but not taken as one. Chester was a little rascal for causing the uproar, even if he did not mean to create the chaos. Julia's face clouded. Metaphor. Shows Julia is upset. Your people, an allusion to Nigeria. She was as pretty as a little girl in a picture book. Simile. It shows how pretty Julia looks. It links to the idea of a picture-perfect family, but all families have secrets. No family is perfect. Page 174. That behind Jenny's calm exterior, she still harbored a fear. Personification. Fear is given physical proportions that she can hold on to. The authorities put us through hell. Metaphor, not physically hell, and hyperbole. He wants to show how intrusive the whole process was. Page 175. These young men swept the compound in long, clean strokes like people paddling canoes. Simile. A smile would appear on his face, like the smile of an old person remembering childhood. Simile. Page 176. Her eyes were like a pair of windows. Simile. Into the room of her mind. Metaphor. Page 177. Loud silence, oxymoron, emphasizes the silence. Remember, oxymoron is when you place two seeming opposites right next to each other. Silence, there is no sound. Loud, there is sound. So loud, silence, they seem to be opposites, but when you think about it, it emphasizes the silence. Face red with rage, alliteration, it shows the intense anger. The storm raging inside him. Metaphor, the storm image shows how angry he is. Pushed his resentment to the back of his mind. Personification. Page 178, banged the front door. Onomatopoeia. Page 179. Jenny looked so wounded. It's a metaphor. It's not a physical wound, but hurt feelings. A wave of noise. Metaphor. It was like opening an oven. Simile. Wilting is a metaphor. Jenny is compared to a flower. Flowers can wilt. Like a dying rose petal. Simile. Page 180. Rock of Gibraltar. It's a metaphor. Arthur is seen as rock solid, dependable, safe. Aspects of the short story. Exposition. Julian, the newspaper boy, finds a baby and takes it to the Reverend Arthur Arlington and his wife Jenny. Rising action, the adoption process of Julia and Chester. Climax, Chester wants to know who his mother is. Denouement, the way in which Chester and Julia deals with the knowledge of being adopted. Chester, who realizes he need not be good all the time, he may make decisions for himself. And then the conclusion, Chester finds a sense of belonging. So ladies and gentlemen, this was a very short discussion of the last short story, which was actually quite a long short story. Now, I have asked you to please write the notes in your script. It's not a punishment. It is so that you can engage with the text, that you familiarize yourself with the language used in it, with the terms, with the terminology, with the characters. The more you deal with it, the easier it becomes to study for the exam. I will be handing you notes as soon as we meet up again. Then I would ask you, please remember to answer all the questions and please answer the vocabulary test. It will come through shortly on the WhatsApp groups. And then, ladies and gentlemen, our next lesson is going to be language, so you can have your language books ready for the next time we meet up again. Have a great day, stay safe, see you soon.